Something very interesting happened today. It's entirely possible that the something we're about to discuss is in fact nothing, but its appearance in the game and then its sudden disappearance could be of such significance that we couldn't allow it to go unreported. Overnight UK time, it was noted by Redditor Commander Darkest Wired on the Elite Dangerous subreddit that the system Tiku-Rua in the bubble had a large number of AX conflict zones present. Following the destruction of the 8 invading Thargoid Titans over the last year or so, I'm not personally aware of the existence of any AX conflict zones anywhere in the bubble. What's not clear is how long the AX conflict zones themselves had been present in the system. They may well have been there for some time, or this could just as likely have only just happened. As you can imagine, community AX forces were alerted and have themselves been investigating, and by investigating what I mean is liberally smearing the caustic goop from the shattered remains of the infested alien wobbly weeds all over their faces as war paint. At about 10:30 AM UK time this morning, the CZs disappeared just as abruptly as they'd appeared. There are a couple of reasons these AXCZs could have come and gone so quickly. Firstly, it could simply be an error. They were never meant to appear at all and they were quickly removed when spotted. Secondly, and I personally think this more likely, they were in fact supposed to be deployed with the regular Thargs Day server tick tomorrow or some other week, and they were activated early in error. I'm going to assume the second option and that the conflict zones were new. We don't see this as a prelude to another invasion, but it might be something else altogether more insidious. This could all just be Frontier wanting to give the galaxy's AX infused portions of the community something specific to do now that the war is apparently over. As we've said on this channel many times before, FDev often go left when we're convinced they're going to go right. However, there are a couple of points that are extremely interesting about the Tiku-Rua system itself and its position in the galaxy. Cast your mind back to the dark days of the Thargoid War, and if you weren't here for that, then here is a very quick and dirty potted recent history lesson. When the Thargoids dumped 8 colossal Titan motherships around the southern edge of the bubble a couple of years ago, they immediately set about invading the systems surrounding themselves. In doing so, they abducted millions of human civilians who were inhabiting those systems. These individuals were known as the Missing. Eventually it was discovered that the Missing were not eaten or vaporized or turned into biomechanical building materials for Thargoid ships, but they were in fact still alive and held in some kind of biological stasis on board the Titan motherships themselves. Tools were quickly developed that allowed the pods that held these unfortunate many to be explosively extracted from the interior of the Titans, and after running the gauntlet of the foul Thargoid scythe vessels, they were returned to medical facilities belonging to their respective superpowers, Federation, Empire and Alliance, for rehabilitation and more than a little medical research. To this day, the Feds and the Imps still have their people held inside these internment facilities, as there is more than a little distrust associated with their extended capture. The primary fear being that they have been brainwashed or biologically altered somehow to act as agents for the Thargoids themselves. These alleged Thargoid sleeper agents are often referred to as zomboids. Following extended research, Imperial scientists looking into the returnees did describe the following about them, quote, "Our analysis of abducted Imperial citizens currently in isolation has yielded disturbing results. There is clear evidence of an autoimmune response in multiple subjects. These manifest as minor physiological changes at a superficial level, which are mostly being dismissed," end quote. So disturbed in fact were the Imperials by their suspicions around the returned many that some elements in the Empire demanded that they be involuntarily euthanized for the good of all. To date this hasn't happened, to our knowledge at least, but of course, yeah, we just killed them, better to be safe, doesn't make great headlines in a strictly regimented society, so it's entirely possible that they have indeed gone off to live on a happy farm somewhere. The Alliance however had an entirely different approach to the treatment of their liberated citizens. I would describe this approach, in direct opposition to the Imperial perspective, as being more from the school of thought that says they seem fine and haven't tried to eat anyone yet, let's just let them go. With Prime Minister Edmund Mahon quoted directly as saying, quote, "Those who hail from an allied system are being transported from the secure facilities back to their families and communities. Their long nightmare is over. We are sending our people home." End quote. The Imperials detected subtle changes in their people's physiology and wanted to euthanize them. The Feds hung on to theirs pending further evidence and likely the results of a fair few lobotomies, let's be honest, and in the light of all this evidence and speculation, the Alliance decided to let their people go. To date, nothing untoward has happened in Alliance space to lend any semblance of credence to the idea that this was in any way a bad move. That is, of course, until today. There was until 10:30 AM today at least one system in the entirety of the bubble that had Thargoid conflict zones present, and it was Alliance. It is my solemn duty to inform you, dear viewer, in case you hadn't already connected the dots, that Tiku Rua is indeed an Alliance system. You may well, quite rightly, be asking at this point whether some kind of mind control ability is even within the Thargoids toolset. Whilst it's not necessarily mystical or supernatural, there is a body of evidence building to suggest that the Thargoids might be capable of something along those lines. The in-game codex contains a whole section on Thargoid communication that has extensive notes on the lore around Thargoid queens and how they communicate over distances with their drones. There is also altogether more disturbing evidence in the game that points to something entirely weird going on. At the start of the Salvation storyline, audio log evidence of some kind of corruption or stupefaction of a human mind when in proximity to Thargoid technology was discovered in the Coalsack Nebula at the settlement known as Geological Survey 23B as part of the events surrounding the Adamastor incident. And away from the game itself, the mycoid fungal virus that was engineered by humans in an attempt to wipe out the Thargoids is referenced by David Braben in the recent 10-year anniversary video created by Frontier just before Christmas. In that video he refers to the fungal virus as Cordyceps. Cordyceps fungus, or Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, is thankfully more commonly known as the zombie ant fungus. It is so called due to its ability to change the behaviour of an insect that is infected with it, essentially losing complete control of its own body and instead performing actions that benefit the spread of the fungus itself. It's a fairly horrific outcome for the unfortunate infected insect, but you can see how this might provide some useful story beats for Frontier. We always assumed the Titans were all about invading and that their destruction would mean the end of that invasion. It may yet be the case that the invasion is in fact still underway and is altogether much more insidious in nature, and the Titans were merely a delivery medium for that invasion. Also, if the Thargoids have been attacked by man-made Cordyceps fungus and apparently survived it, are we even still fighting the living Thargoids themselves, or was our fungal weapon actually a success and we're now in fact dealing with its return, utilising a Thargoid carcass to further its own survival? In any other circumstance that might seem a preposterous tinfoily proposition were it not for the mere fact that is quite literally exactly what the Cordyceps fungi do. The initial Thargoid invasion force of Titans landed on the southern edges of the bubble. This latest alert appeared on the northern border of what used to be the bubble, but since the arrival of Trailblazers it's been colonised slightly further north in the direction of Sagittarius A star. The Tiku Rua system is directly just 215 light years south of the system Col 359 sector UM-T C4-6, and that system is the first inhabited point on the Brewer Corporation's bridge of systems that lead directly all the way to the Colonia bubble.